the attempted assassination of Donald Trump. Holy shit, the second one. Donald Trump himself has contributed more than any president in history to violent rhetoric.
For his own assassination attempts, it doesn't actually add up.
I can't get over the fact that this dude fought in Ukraine. We seem to have glossed over that fact.
I think also we should just have Mossad protect Trump. The New York Times Tech Guild is threatening to strike. They've asked for unlimited break time, a ban on scented products in break rooms.
Mandatory trigger warnings in company meetings, for the news outlet.
The Daily Wire's Matt Walsh claimed that adults shouldn't be taking sick days at the office.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Pirate Wires podcast. Before we get started with the substance of the day, please subscribe to the show. I'm serious. I ask every week, and I think that it just bleeds into what you're hearing me say. If you watch the show and like the show, subscribe to it. It helps us. It does nothing to you. You don't have to pay for it. What are we doing here? Help a guy out. Subscribe, comment, like it, share it, tell your friends about it. You are a part of the Pirate Nation, and that comes with certain responsibilities. Moving on. Today is the final round of there's a final episode of the first round of Pirate Idol. So some great ones lined up for you there. We have our Polymarket segment today. We're going to be focusing on Israel, but just trust me, it will make sense when we get there as to why. I mean, we're talking about the Beeper Boys in the Hezbollah Beeper Boys.
The Grim
for a
Beeper
moment.
operation.
And so we'll get there. But first, before anything else, we got to talk about the attempted assassination of Donald Trump. Holy shit, the second one. This is a huge story, yet somehow not huge enough, I feel, which is perhaps maybe where I'm going to take this in a second. So just to kind of recap anybody who somehow doesn't know that the president was almost assassinated again, or the former president, now current person running for president, Donald Trump was playing golf. Nobody knew that. It wasn't public posted. I'm not going to use his name because we don't name attempted presidential assassinations here. Maybe we do, right? I guess we do. We talk about assassins all the time. Ryan Ruth is his name. Stood outside in the bushes for 11 hours and was spotted by the Secret Service agents who were playing around ahead. Ran away. A helpful, good Karen saw him running into his car, ran up to the car and took pictures of the license plate and reported his ass to the police. And now he's in custody. We know nothing about him. We know a lot about him. We know not really anything about his motives yet. There's not been anything reported about, perhaps what many people are wondering, if he was working with someone on the inside, because how else did he know where Trump was? It's very strange. I would say where I first started picking up on this story was Sunday. I watched it on the news. I was watching CNN, MSNBC, and Fox. And I want to start, because we're going to talk about the media's reaction to this. And I will say that on Sunday, I almost posted about how impressed I was with all of them. MSNBC and CNN were doing a great job. CNN especially, I thought, was doing a really good job of kind of parsing what we knew and what we didn't, and just accurately reporting on a story that I felt was really important, that I think probably just objectively was really important. The New York Times had incredible coverage. And I'm so glad I didn't, because by Monday morning, I was surfing. This happens on Sunday afternoon. The guy gets away, he gets, taken into custody. By Monday morning, every single major media outlet almost had a split coverage. Okay. The coverage was, on the one hand, Donald Trump's attempted assassination, and then directly next to it. So on CNN, I saw this. On MSNBC, I saw this. On the Washington Post, I saw this. Directly next to it was story of the Haitians eating cats. Did they not? Why is Donald Trump spreading fake news, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And this, by Monday afternoon, going into Monday evening, and certainly by Tuesday morning, evolved into a piece of a broader argument, which was Donald Trump was responsible for these attempted assassination attempts. And this was, said widely. There were tons of reporting to this effect. Largely, the idea is that Donald Trump himself has contributed more than any president in history to violent rhetoric, and that violent rhetoric is contributing now to attempted actual violence. This was sort of, there was a lot of media obfuscation here. This is one of the pieces. It's not really quite clear how Haitians eating cats is a violent rhetoric. It's certainly a whole other thing, which we talked about last week. The fact that we're still talking about it, to me, would imply there's a justification there. Like, it's so heinous that it could potentially set somebody off. But when you talk about justifying the violence, that's a strange new place to be in, where a man almost got killed for the second time, and we're saying, well, it's your own fault for whatever reason. Time kind of helped this narrative along in another interesting way by arguing, it was really not clear what this guy's politics were. It's very clear what his politics are. We all had access briefly to his social media. I scrolled it. The man is a standard normie lib who is obsessed with the Ukraine. I do think he gives a crazy vibe. I'm sure there is something mentally wrong with him. But he was in the mentions of, Harris and Biden asking for something to be done about Trump, not actually violently done, but, in a very sort of, he used the phrase, democracy is on the ballot. We need to, fix the discourse in this country. Come on, Kamala. He just sounded like some idiot on Facebook or something. And he has a Biden-Harris sticker on the back of his pickup truck or his truck or whatever. So it's like, we know, and he tried to kill Trump. Like, for me, it's not a complicated puzzle as to what this man's politics are. But for the media, it was. And I think that's how they made this work. By obscuring what he believes and why he's doing what he's doing, they could circumvent what we talked about last time that Trump was almost killed, which is their own responsibility for telling the entire country over and over and over again, including, about 2 days after he was almost killed the last time, that this is a Hitler-esque figure, Donald Trump. And if he's elected, we will lose democracy and freedom. There'll be death camps, and everything that you care about will be illegal. Your freedoms will be taken away. The ballot will be gone. Voting will be gone. He will be a dictator. This is what they're saying. They're arguing this. And even as I was saying it just now, it occurred to me, fuck, that's crazy. That's a crazy thing to be saying, but it's not just some random person on Twitter, right? Like, these are the mainstream talking points coming from the DNC, which is then filtered through the press. They've all participated. We've seen the covers. Maggie, pull up the famous Hitler one. That's where the rhetoric's coming from. Now, I don't even think that is necessarily, I don't believe that they're responsible for the attempted assassination of Trump. I think the crazy person is pretty much responsible, and maybe anybody else who he worked with. But certainly the person who's not responsible is Trump. My take. What do you guys think?
I think if you're an institution like the DNC or even the Secret Service who wants to prevent another Trump assassination attempt, the comms around all this has been super, super strange. Like, I think the first thing that you would do is put out, sort of communication and memos to the media, and like we've seen with school shootings, right? Like, don't mention the name of the shooter. To maybe say like Trump was to blame for, like, maybe we shouldn't be saying Trump is to blame for the second assassination attempt. I think it's also weird. Like, I noticed in the video of them ascertaining the shooter, he had his shirt up on the back of his head so that you couldn't see his face, right? And presumably this is a guy that just tried to kill Trump. And I can't imagine that they just let him do that, right? Because he has to like put his hands around his pockets, put his arms above his head and do that motion. And any other criminal who just tried to kill somebody that would get them shot. My point is to say this, like, it seems like they instructed him to cover his face and to do that whole thing. And again, I think if you're trying to prevent assassination attempts on a current president, the whole comms around this whole thing would look a little bit, would not look like what we're seeing. Like, we have no information on the shooter. We have no information about what the Secret Service and other relevant authorities are doing to prevent another shooter. And I would think that you would put that out, or some amount of that out to deter other shooters, to be like, look, like we have got this thing locked down. We're doing all these things, plus a bunch of other things that we're not going to tell you to prevent you. And if you do this again, you're going to be, you're screwed, right? Like there's no way, there's no chance that you'll get past us on this one. And it's like what we're seeing is the opposite. And that's really puzzling. I think also we should just have Mossad protect Trump. That would probably be more effective. Right?
I think they just don't know what. I think they're a little overwhelmed. What we know about these two. You know what we don't know is how many attempts there have actually been. You know, how many attempts have been foiled. I've been thinking a bit about that this week. You know, they don't want to be announcing this stuff because, as we saw with this last attempt, what came out immediately was, well, they were able to stop him because you had the Secret Service agents playing around ahead of Trump, one hole ahead of Trump on the golf course. And that's probably a security measure that's been in place for, I don't know, decades. I'm imagining for every president that plays golf. And now it no longer can be, they have to change the entire strategy around because we all, you know, it's public now and there has to be something else. So they want to be quiet about even their wins. And this is a big one. I mean, I don't know how there two attempts this public says to me that this man, people want this man to die. And it makes me nervous for his life, like really nervous.
I think just to go back to the media line that he's responsible for his own assassination attempts, it doesn't actually add up because we should be seeing assassination attempts on Kamala too, right? Because Kamala would arguably be the target of people that he's, you know, sort of influencing to be hyper violent, right? So that line doesn't make any sense at all anyways, you know?
They want us to believe that he has incited people to violence against the Democrats, and that has somehow activated random crazy people with no real conceivable political ideology to go after him. I don't really believe that. I think that we should not be crazy in our discourse. We should not be escalating things to the point of this repeated. It wasn't just an offhand comment. I always am more forgiving of an offhand whatever. You're in a debate, you're in a comment, you're on a talk show for a minute, and you say like, this man is Hitler, or I mean, stupid, but like you say he's a threat to democracy on the ballot, whatever. You said it once. That's not what happened. This is their campaign. This is like their talking points that go around like a memo around Washington, and everybody's
a dictator. Yeah.
Again and again and again and again. This is their strategy. This is a main part of their campaign, is to say the world will end as you know it if this man is in office. Now, either you believe that and you try and do something to stop it, or you don't, and whatever. Even still, I don't know. I don't blame that. I think probably what's happening is like Donald Trump is uniquely famous, and he's just this magnet for this kind of crazy person, especially after the first attempt. I kind of hoped that because the first attempt ended in his heroism, is what it looked like when he stood up and was fearless and brave, and he had the blood on him, but he was fine. And the other person who tried to kill him was just, you know, mortifying, like, first of all, ugly and sad, incel-looking person who got the shit just blown out of him up there on the roof. And you hope that that's enough psychologically to ward off people like him. Certainly, I hope that. And what we know now is it just isn't, especially now the second guy, nothing happened to him. He just got a ton of attention. I think that Trump is just a magnet now. And I know they're nervous about it. I know that Biden was. You know, there were a lot of bad comments coming out of this, or a lack of comment. Hillary Clinton said nothing, but Monday morning she did talk about the cats, in the Haitian cats. She went on and on about this and JD Vance and misinformation. And in fact, she spread some disinformation herself at that point. She said that JD Vance had lied about it, admitted that he had lied about it. It's not true. It had been debunked multiple times by the time that she had amplified it. But Biden was pretty consistent in his messaging from the beginning. And I have to believe that there's someone on that side of things that is nervous for themselves at this point as well. You know, it seems like the switch has been flipped to craziness, and now anything is possible. I don't know, Riley, what did you make of this?
Yeah, for as much as this has become a debate about discourse and how we immediately pivoted back to the cat memes, as you perfectly highlighted, Solana, I can't get over the fact that this dude like fought in Ukraine. Like, we seem to have glossed over that fact in the same way that we just glossed over the fact that the first guy had no social media presence, which is also weird. Like, did Ukraine have this guy on their radar? Was he connected in any way? I know that sort of gets into conspiracy territory, but like, the point is there's a lot that needs to be unpacked here, which makes it even more depressing that the media has glossed over all of it and immediately gone back to cats.
Well, the media, I have not done a ton of digging into this, but the first one I noticed was Semaphore had quoted him previously, the attempted assassin. And the New York Times had as well, which I learned from the New York Times. The New York Times acknowledged, I forget which piece of reporting it was, that they had previously covered him on the topic of getting, I think he wanted to like recruit Afghan fighters to fight in Ukraine. And they said, we have interviewed this guy. And they said that their writer at the time felt that he was, they used some phrasing to say that their writer felt that he was out of his depth. It might have just been out of his depth. I didn't read the original reporting, so I'm not actually sure what the original characterization was, but this was not a random person who we didn't know about. This was a person online saying exactly what he believed. He was very, like, as you said, obsessed with Ukraine. In fact, he was there. Now we have stories coming out of like, oh, well, all the Ukrainian soldiers didn't like him and they said he was crazy. And it's like, of course you're going to say that. I did also notice that this one was really weird, man. Going through his Twitter was weird. His Twitter read like a bot. If I had not known that he was a real person, I would have assumed it was a bot. If I looked at the profile, it was just almost copy pasted a lot of the same, very, very similar verbiage, caps lock in the same place for certain words and things, mostly talking about Ukraine. There were other things again, like the democracy on the ballot and whatnot. But like, to me, it felt like a, I don't know, like a Chinese run bot or something. And what was, I think, maybe especially weird, I think it was one of the first two tweets, he had added or like mentioned the Ukrainian government, I believe, and they had removed themselves from the tag. And I don't know, I've never removed anybody from a tag. And I by the way, I should say that I saw this profile within 2 minutes of it. The news broke about his name. I think it was Fox News that broke the news of his name. And I immediately went to see if he had a social media presence, and he did. And at that point, his top tweet, he had less than 200 Twitter followers at that point when I saw it. And he had his top tweet was like a couple of likes or something. So I know that I was early to finding this, and it had already been untagged, which says to me either they untagged it at the time or they were right there with me or something. They didn't want the heat. It was just, the whole thing is weird. I agree. The whole thing is fucking bizarre. We don't know anything about it. And it seems like the kind of thing that we should just be talking about like 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, until we figure out what the hell happened there. I mean, it's just like, we just glossed right over it.
Yeah. There's so many details to unpack that we are completely ignoring in favor of what is the accuracy of this AI cat meme directed to the town in Springfield, Ohio. Like, on the scale of which things are important, that seems far less to me than a guy who fought in Ukraine, may have had connections to Ukraine. What connections did he have to intelligence here or anything? Just tried to kill the president. That's way more important to me than a cat meme.
I guess also, I wonder just what it takes to go and fight in Ukraine. I know that Antonio Garcia Martinez, he just flew there when the war first broke out. And then made friends and exported. He wasn't fighting, he was writing. But I guess my first thing is like, well, can anyone just go to Ukraine and fight? And it's like, probably you could. Probably like they would just take anybody to help fight at this point. So maybe that's what had happened, is he's just some crazy guy that went there, and then somehow you get the ear of the New York Times, which is crazy. Like, how does a guy like that get the ear of the New York Times? Like, what did the New York Times writer see in that profile of almost no one following it, and it looks like a bot, and they said, you're my guy. Like, you are going to tell me about what's going on in Ukraine. That's fucking weird.
Yeah. Like, he's not just some random guy there. He was an authority there.
Apologies, guys. It looks like we lost Brandon. Let's see if we can get him back to the chat. Well, Matt, you're on.
Matt, let's go.
Matt is here for the next topic. Hi, Matt.
What up?
Brandon's internet went out again out there in Los Angeles. We are gonna. I mean, this is just the Ryan Ruth thing, the assassin thing is. It just remains crazy. I think it's going to be crazy forever. The fact that we're not talking about it at all is crazy. It's no longer the headline story. We're talking. It's been a few days since someone almost took out the president from the bushes of his fucking golf course. For the second time, this man almost died. And it's just like they don't care at all other than to say it's his fault. That to me is, sort of morally bankrupt to a degree I didn't even know they were. I really was surprised by the way that they handle, especially the New York Times. They published a piece that became, I've been watching a lot of 24-hour news lately. So their piece became the center piece on MSNBC specifically, which brought it up again and again and again and again. This New York Times piece that broke down the history of Trump's violent rhetoric about 24 hours after he almost died, was almost killed. That's crazy. The fact that we don't know anything about him is crazy. We don't know if it was an inside job. That's crazy. There's evidence that indicates it may have been. I'm not saying this isn't a conspiracy theory. It's just straight up like we have a question as to how he knew that Trump was going to be playing golf, right? That's a huge question that implies something really frightening about our politics. And we need to know, we need answers. And it's just shocking to me that nobody is demanding those answers. No one's doing it for us. And it's even we aren't though. Like out there on Twitter, like where are all even the right wing guys? They just don't care. It's like this just got fucking memory holes.
That's crazy. You talked about like the moving on with the memes, but like I've had actual conversations with people I know in my life who are Democrats about the assassination attempt, and they said the same thing. Like, yeah, Trump's rhetoric has gone too far, and I'm like, I'm taking fucking crazy pills right now. The guy who is actively being shot at multiple times, like almost on a weekly basis at this point.
Well, because break that down. If you are not like, there's no way that you believe that it's a Trump. It's like people who like Trump are doing it. You just don't believe that. You don't believe that he has spoken to people in a way that has encouraged them to kill him. No one thinks that. So when you say that, what are you really saying? That his rhetoric has to be toned down? You're saying that he is saying something that is so bad that it has driven people to try and kill him, and he should stop doing that. He should stop saying that thing that makes people want to kill him. That's why the cat story comes up, because they are saying, look at how heinous this misinformation is. And it's like, if you are sharing misinformation that is that heinous, someone's going to shoot you, and you shouldn't be able to complain about it. And it's like,
that's crazy.
Okay, so New York Times, man who shares cat meme should be shot. That is a no for me.
It's a dark world, man.
Brandon's back.
It's a dark world because, like, again, like I get to see the sort of like the effects of like what the sort of normie or Democrat audience that gets fed, because I see it in my group texts from my family. They're talking about the cats. Like they're saying like they don't care about Trump being almost assassinated, and they're moving on to the cats. And it's like, you wrote about this after the first assassination attempt, which is like, if you call someone literally Hitler, what the fuck do you think is going to happen? You're going to kill Hitler. Like, fuck out of here.
Well, so that piece, because I want to be careful not to blame them.
Right.
I don't really think the New York Times is responsible for an attempted assassination of Trump. I think that what that says to me is like, if you're going to say thoughts and prayers for him and his family, I no longer believe that you believe that he's Hitler. Because if someone tried to kill an actual would-be dictator of the United States of America, I mean, you couldn't possibly care about that. By the way, if you try and take control of the government, it's a military coup that you attempt, that's treason. The punishment for that is death. Like, these words have meanings, and there are crimes that are real crimes that are associated with real punishments, and people just throw this shit around like it's nothing. No, if he's a traitor, if you really believe that he's a traitor, that's why I take the January 6th stuff so seriously. If you really believe that was an attempted coup, then there's a punishment for that. And it's not a light slap on the wrist and we're going to fine you for your stupid real estate shit. It's like a trial and then an execution is what happens when you try to do a military coup. And I just that is like, this stuff really bothers me. But we should move on to something more fun, because we have no answers to any of these questions just yet. We'll keep you up to date as stuff comes through on the attempted assassination and his motives. I do want to talk. I feel like I'm part of the problem now, because what I really want to talk about is it's a bit of a clown world story. Brandon, take us into the harrowing world of Amazon HQ and the shocking revelation that they are going to be forced, holy shit, to go to the office.
Sure. The CEO of Amazon, Andy Jassy, sent a memo to the company announcing that the expectation after January 2nd, 2025, by the way, which is not in a lot of the news coverage, they're giving them 4 months or something like that to come back to the office. The expectation will be that they have to come into the office 5 days a week after January 2nd, 2025. Now, the previous policy, or the policy that's still in place until January 2nd, is that people can take 2 work from home days a week. So he mentioned that pre-pandemic in this memo, there was never any expectation of 2 work from home days a week. So that they're just basically, they're going to go back to that. They've determined that productivity is higher at the office. People have more, collaboration, and it's just generally better. He was pretty careful to point out that there would still be a fairly liberal remote policy. So for example, if like the employee, and I'm going to quote, if you need a day or 2 to finish coding in a more isolated environment, that's totally fine. And it'll still be fine. But again, the expectation is that, the office workers, this can't apply to the warehouse workers, because they have to be in the warehouse. But office workers will need to be in the office 5 days a week. Kevin wrote for us in the Daily that some employees took to the web and protest. One of them said, "I'd rather go back to school than work in an office again," which is fair enough, whatever. Somebody said that they're probably going to quiet quit. And generally, people are upset they actually have to go in and do what their employee is requiring them to do, which I find insane. But that's
it reminds me, I know it's Amazon's a tech company, and I think the big thing there is just, you're a massive monopoly company, and you now have tons of employees all over the place, and there's a management problem there. You're having a hard time tracking your employees and make sure that they're actually doing stuff. For years in tech, leading up to COVID, there was so much waste because it was just, the golden age. There was money raining from the skies and nobody really cared. That world has really changed quite a lot. And I think it's just COVID's over. It's time to go back to work. And what we're really learning, because there were all these experiments at the time, it was the question of whether or not people will be more productive or something if they were at home. I think probably a small minority of people really are, but most people are not. And they wouldn't be doing this unless they had found that they were getting less than they were already getting out of their employees, which would have been low comparatively compared to other Fortune 500 companies. All of the tech companies are just, they're easier jobs. And so that's the end of the trend. But then what you have is not the end of that's the end of the story, but the trend is a little bit broader. This idea of, I think, your entitlement to not work at your job came to a head recently in the story of the New York Times Union, which is another story, Brandon, that I would like you to kind of unpack for us before we break it all down.
I wanted to bring that one up too. So this week, Semaphore reported that the New York Times Tech Guild is threatening to strike during election season at the New York Times.
So not the writers.
Not the writers, tech support, developers, people who make sure Wordle is operating 24/7, those types of people. So they've been threatening to strike because they've been in sort of negotiations with management for over 2 years now, and they still haven't reached, an agreement with them. During these 2 years, at various times, Semaphore reported, they've demanded pretty ambitious things. They've demanded a 4-day work week, but increased pay. By the way, the average salary of the union member in this union is $190,000 a year, $40,000 a year more on average than a journalist at the New York Times. They've asked for unlimited break time, a ban on scented products in break rooms, paid pet bereavement. That's my favorite one. I want to do a Matt Walsh thing saying if you need paid pet bereavement, like
grow up.
You're a child. Come on.
That's embarrassing.
Grow
Except for
up.
dogs. Maybe I would take a day off if my dog died. I would be really sad.
I was pretty sad when Darwin died.
Yeah, I mean, dogs are. Yeah, I'm thinking of cats. I guess dogs. Maybe you should.
Dogs
maybe,
only.
Maybe that's legit for dogs. Yeah, you should get a week off.
Yeah, cats suck, which is why I had a hard time with the Haitian eating cat story to begin with. I was like,
You like, didn't care. You're like, good.
Lost a few cats.
If they ate one cat, like, come on, it's not that big of a deal.
Just to close this off, a few more of their things that they've wanted over the past 2 years. They wanted to write. They essentially wanted to write to review op-eds before they publish. They wanted to say,
That's fucking crazy.
that's totally
If I
crazy.
were a writer,
It doesn't work. It doesn't work from the editorial workflow, right? You can't.
so you have two different kinds of like you have what you have are a handful of very sort of standard crazy new left kind of entitled bratty sort of things, which is almost everything that you said. Then you have, if I were a reporter at the New York Times and a fucking engineer said that he needed to be able to review my pieces, I would lose my mind. I would be incandescent with, I'm mad for them, and I'm not even usually on their side. Like, I am furious. And like, how are they not? I guess they can't, maybe they feel like the writers are in their own union and they have to show some sort of like union solidarity, but that's crazy. How come the writers union hasn't stood up and said, maybe they have? Has there been any comment? Do we know if the writers union has responded to that one at all? Nothing.
They're probably in solidarity.
There's some more points that I wanted to bring up too. Non-performance based annual bonuses. So you just get a bonus for just being there. Vibes bonus. Mandatory trigger warnings in company meetings, for the news outlet. More money for non-white staff to attend conferences.
Yeah, which is illegal.
That's illegal.
Yes,
that is illegal.
It was the New York Times management said. They were like, I think this is illegal. I'm thinking of, so one of my favorite movies growing up as a kid was this movie Scrooged with what's his face, Bill Murray, and he is so mean to the people who work for him, mean to the point where one of them goes and tries to kill him, and there's this like epic like shooting scene. Matt, maybe you could pull up a clip of just like, this is, I mean, we're getting in the Christmas, well, it's still Halloween anyway. The 80s, man, like these people could could not survive what happened there. And I don't know, I kind of miss it. I think that we need to be a little harder. I think there's got to be a happy middle ground between, never take a sick day, which we'll talk about later, and a 4-day work week with an increase in pay and trigger warnings. And the scented candles thing also I'm on board for, because I think that those are hormone disruptors. And so I think that it's like, we got to get rid of the hormone disruptors in the office, and we have to high protein diets, huge subsidies for going to the gym, maybe some kind of like, put it in there and like, let's boost that tea. And then I never want to hear about trigger warnings again at the New York Times, which is supposed to be reporting on world news. Like a trigger warning exists so you don't have to be emotionally disturbed by content that is like, sexual assault content or genocide or, violent street crime, the things that the New York Times exists
for the news.
It's crazy to be like, the news disturbs me. Please stop talking about it. What? At the New York Times? I wish that I could ask some of my Times friends about this, because there's no way that they don't think this is insane.
I think our listeners should all follow the advice that Brandon gave our readers in the Daily this week of stand with the Times in solidarity and boycott the hard-hitting journalism that blames Trump for his own assassination.
Good point.
Yeah, I love this. This union's great. I want to see more from this union.
Yeah, good call, Brandon.
Thanks. I stole that take from Mark Andreessen. He was the first to be in support,
right.
ironically.
You joined in the fight.
Yeah. I'm in solidarity with Andreessen and the Guild. I think one of the things that really gets me, the quiet quitters kind of really frustrate me, especially the ones who use Marxist language to like dress it up as some sort of moral, like high ground thing, because it's like, it's a totally deceptive and dishonest thing to do. Like you are deliberately, you're like, I am going to quiet quit. So that means that you are like, you're planning on not doing work and lying every single day to a bunch of people about what you're doing. I don't know many people who lie a lot. I personally like have a hard time lying. Like big lies are like hard for, I don't do them because it's just uncomfortable for me. But you have people saying that they're going to lie every single day to their managers, but then making it some sort of statement about labor and Karl Marx and like, I don't know, workers' rights. And that really like bothers me. It like, also, so there was a story in the news, sorry, Solana, this week about, so this lady, Tracy, I don't remember what her last name is. She's coming out with a book called Abolish Rent. And she tweeted about it. Like she's promoting her book right now. And one of her promotions, one of her tweets promoting the book was a picture of her building with the caption, "My entire building hasn't paid rent for 2 years." And then she tweets another picture of her building is like about to meet my new landlord, smiley face. Right. And it's like, you are a predator. Like you're literally a predator who's deliberately scamming other people, and you're doing it in a premeditated way. And I actually feel that way about quiet quitters. And she's also, she's justifying it with like Marxist language, which is just like a total show. And I think quiet quitters and people who demand 4-day work weeks for extra pay, like they know what they're doing. And especially when they make $190,000 a year. And it's just hard for me when I read that stuff. I'm just like, these people suck, you know, like they're fundamentally dishonest. And there's no dressing up you can do to hide that. And I don't like that.
Yeah, you have people who are committing crime and they're dressing up in the language of morality.
Yeah.
And we've been seeing it for many, many years. This is a very egregious example. I get this a lot. And when you go after people like that, you always get the socialists in your mentions who, this is a big thing in socialist circles, especially on social media. They really do believe that landlords are evil and that not paying rent is, not only is it acceptable, but there's something...
It's like morally necessary or something. Yeah.
And heroic about doing it. And I don't believe them. I think that it's cope, or not really cope, but that's how they dress it up for themselves. They're doing crime. And how is that actually legal? If she's so open about it, someone should definitely take her to court.
Well, she wrote a book about it, and it is legal because of sort of like tenant protections on steroids in California and New York.
Where does she live? Another thing, is she New York or California?
So that's confusing. She started the LA. She co-founded the LA Tenants Union, but I believe she's been living in New York for the past 2 years. But that part of it's confusing. I also found out. So I was listening to a podcast not too long ago, and I was listening. It was about communists in the 40s and 50s, and back then they were really, really hardcore. Like just the communists were no joke compared to the people right now. What they would do is they would take jobs, and the people in the managerial class, like the ones that we're speaking about in the New York Times, this lady who wrote that book, they would aim to get promotions so that they could give more money to the party, who would then return that money, but only a little bit of it as a worker's wage. So like people in the Communist Party back then would give all their paycheck to the Communist Party, who would then pay them essentially minimum wage, and they would be like a unit in this party. And I think what these New York Times employees are doing, the ones in the union who are like pro-labor, are in fact using their like $190,000 salary, and they're getting their $10 coffee, stepping over a homeless person to get to the coffee shop, and not doing anything that is even remotely Marxist, actually. Like I feel like this is not serious Marxism, and it's very deceptive.
Well, thank God for that. We make fun of these people a lot.
Yeah,
but at the end of the day, it's awesome that they suck so hard. You know what I mean? It would be way worse if they were talented Marxists, and then you had to deal with, again, what is it? Barack Obama's former mentor, Bill Ayers, blowing shit up. Like, I don't want to live in that Marxist hellhole.
Yeah.
This is the softer side of Marxism is enough for me. We have to quickly talk about the fact that these are not Marxists, but they are terrible people. You have a bunch of terrorists in Lebanon who Tuesday, I believe, exploded. Sort of small explosions, but a lot of them died. And the reason that they died was because their beepers, which they use because I think they're afraid of being tracked on other technology by the Israelis, exploded. Were packed, it seems like, with some kind of explosive device. It was a huge intelligence coup for Israel. People are going to be talking about this maneuver for many years to come because it did not even conclude with that first wave of hundreds and hundreds of beepers. The next day, during a funeral for one of the beeper boys who got blasted into outer space, a bunch of walkie-talkies exploded and a bunch of other shit. I'm seeing other reports now of solar panels and things like that. I don't know what's true and what's not right now. We're sort of in the fog of war. But certainly beepers and walkie-talkies, both of which are sort of primitive tech that have been used to protect yourself from espionage, basically, somehow were captured before they were handed out and reworked in such a way as the Israeli government could pinpoint members of Hezbollah and kill them. The reason we don't typically talk too much about, the war abroad or anything like this. This is interesting to me because I don't think we have to worry about our iPhones blowing up. Maybe famous last words. That would really suck if that's how I went out. But we do manufacture these devices that we carry with us everywhere in a country that we understand to be an adversary. And it's just this really interesting, the reaction to the beeper thing was bifurcated along expected tribal bounds. And this is a different kind of tribal. It's not like the standard American tribal where it's necessarily left, right. It's, are you like a yay Hamas person, or are you like an obsessed Israel tweeter? And so like those people got mad or happy in both of their ways. But there's a broader question here, which is what is happening with our devices? This really opens up a gateway of new ideas and new questions. I don't think that we should worry about explosives, but I do wonder about hacking and about what else is in there in terms of hardware and, how well protected are we? And I don't know. Is something you guys think about at all? Am I totally off base here?
I mean, the Chinese have already shown a propensity for wanting to spy on Americans. I think they've been buying up government land or land that's close to army bases. I think they almost bought land around the Capitol and then were found to be planning to like put communications devices in it. I don't have the facts. That's very loose on the facts there, but I suppose I definitely wouldn't put it past them. I mean, we blocked that 5G company from doing business, I think, in the U.S. For national security concerns. So,
does the technology matter? I mean, they're using beepers from the 90s. I mean, it's nice to see Hezbollah, their vintage, quite trendy with the vintage tech. But I don't know if is the iPhone more protected?
Probably, and I'm sure that Apple is just a more sophisticated company, and there's all sorts of. The way that I think it probably works is 1 out of 1,000 iPhones is cracked open, probably, and just like routine, and it's cracked open here at home, and people look at everything, and then they sort of keep moving on. But also, there are plenty of spies, Chinese spies throughout the tech industry. I'm sure there are spies at Apple, and so is that a system that could be gamed? Also, it seems possible. Seems plausible, even. I'm not worried about explosions. I'm worried about being tracked, and and having my messages captured and things like this, and your photos, and I don't know, who even knows. The thing is, like, you don't want to give any information away because you don't know how it can be used against you, and we don't know how things are going to escalate with China. We don't know what's going to happen in a year or 2 years or whatever else. All we know is that we're not friends, and so I don't know. It seems like a problem that they are manufacturing some of our most important technology. Like that, just it's like straight up. I don't know. I don't love that.
I'd be interested to know the economics of what's the actual cost. If you brought all of Apple's iPhone production to the United States, what are the economics of that look like? I don't know. It's kind of interesting.
Bad.
Yeah,
I bet you're looking at like a $10,000 plus phone.
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, yeah, they're a couple thousand already. So,
and just the headache of bringing chips over. That was a nightmare. So I'm sure this would be a nightmare as well.
Well, we should, I mean, in the context of the Bieber Boys blowing up all over Lebanon, we should talk about, well, we have our Poly Read. So it's time for our Polymarket segment. Thank you, Polymarket, for giving us what we need to give you all what you want, which is the greatest news in tech. Okay, so let's talk about the question of whether or not Israel is going to invade Lebanon. So in Lebanon, Lebanon, Hezbollah radios exploded across the south on Wednesday, killing 20 and injuring over 450. This follows Tuesday's explosion of Hezbollah pagers, which killed 12 and injured nearly 3,000. While they haven't claimed the attack, it is widely believed that this was the work of Mossad and the IDF. The odds of Israel invading Lebanon by November changed drastically on Polymarket. So a week ago, these odds were just 10%. On the morning of the attack, they jumped from 29% to 43% in the span of an hour. At the time of this recording, these odds stand at 36%. I did see that the White House is using very strong language, sort of condemning, not condemn. I don't think they actually condemned. It's as strong as you can be without shit talking an ally. They consider this escalatory. I think that the escalatory action was probably the terrorists sending missiles or rockets into Israel. I mean, there's like every day. Like, what are we talking about? Like, these are actual terrorists. It was a pinpoint attack. It does concern me. There was a question of terrorism. Obviously the Hamas people are like, this is terrorist. Israel's terrorist. This is a terrorist act. What is if you're at war, is it terrorism? Like, what it makes it? I feel like these people, they're firing rockets at you. That's an act of war. You're now fighting back. I don't know if you were sort of mass murdering civilians, that feels terroristic to me in nature, but this is war, right? It's like, I don't understand that.
The argument is that they were in public places when it happened, right? So like explosions will hit kids or families that are nearby, right? But if you're firing a rocket, you're kind of getting the same results. So I don't really know how you avoid that one in a war, like you said. This
is the thing. It's like, do people not think that kids died in World War II? Like, what do we think that we don't think that American soldiers have killed kids in war that no one would say is a crime? So let's ignore Vietnam or even Korea or something. Let's just go to World War II. You don't think we killed any German kids when the Allies were firebombing Dresden? Like, no children killed in the making of this war? That's war. Like, this is why we don't want war. Like, this is why. War is not this magical thing. You press a button and then there's a way to do it where only adult men die, which, by the way, also sucks, speaking as an adult man. Like, what the fuck? It's crazy how they're just like, well, men are expendable. Well, maybe I understand it, but it's like, it's not good when anybody dies. But the idea that like kids don't die is just, it's what you would say if you were an American and you've never actually had to face war before, thank God, in your life. You would say something this stupid. But no, I don't. It doesn't strike me as terrorism. I don't love to get caught in like the tangled web of Israel-Palestine stuff. It's like this fucking ancient blood feud is what it feels like to me, and I just want us to not have really much to do with it. AOC did sort of go off about it, and I think that it was on grounds. This is terrorism. It's opened a new door. This sort of tactic can be used against us now. if we're ever at formal war, we haven't been at formal war with a country for a very long time. I think World War II may have been the last formal, where there was a formal declaration of war. Let's look this up, actually. Matt, look it up. Okay. Let's see. Last U.S. formal declaration of war. Yeah, I was right. World War II was the United States' last formal declaration of war was June 5th, 1942 against Romania, Bulgaria, and Hungary during World War II. To get to a point where we're really at war, and something like this could be done against us, there are such bigger problems in a world, a post-nuclear world where we're a superpower. No one's declaring war against us unless they're also a superpower. It's like exploding beepers will be one thing of many things we'd be worried about. I think the biggest one will probably be drone warfare. If it happened right now, that's the thing that I would be worried about. So maybe Israel does invade Lebanon. I would if I were Israel, but I'm not Israel. I'm an American, and I don't want to talk about this anymore. Thank you, Polymarket. Now we got to get into. We're about to get into the idle segment. Riley, you want to break down just where we are there?
Sure thing. So to recap for our dear Pirate Idol viewers, Matt, I'm not sure if you want to play like some sentimental music here or anything. Week 1 saw our first 4 contestants break down a topic on a nuclear power plant, demolition in Germany. Martin Shkreli was our guest judge, and voters seemed to like Kardec by a wide margin in the comments there. Week 2 contestants discussed The Guardian, calling for tech CEOs calling to be arrested. Where voters seemed to like both Molly and Patrick that week. Week 3 saw Eid being our guest, while contestants discussed San Francisco moving to ban the sale of Zyn. And in that week, Chris and Andy seemed to be our top vote getters there. And lastly, week 4, contestants talked about the ongoing pandemic of loneliness, where returns are still coming in, but Olivia seemed to be getting the most love in our comments so far.
Well, if you guys don't agree with any of that, you better sound off in the comments as soon as you can, because next week we begin the quarterfinals, and we'll kind of announce the rules and everything then. For now, we got one final round of round wonders. Let's get into it. Welcome back to the greatest show on Earth, or certainly on YouTube. It's Pirate Idol. It is the last week of the first round. Next week begins the quarterfinals. You guys just got the updates on who is in the lead, but we have 3 final contestants lined up, ready to deliver takes. And I think we're going to get right into it. You guys know the rules. Everyone gets an introduction, a take. In between that, whatever happens. You guys can jump in, you can jump out. We've had people just leave before when their technology fails. I wouldn't want you to do that. It would be interesting, I guess. That's it. We're just going to start. The topic today is, Riley's going to tee up the whole thing, but the sort of rough topic is just the question of sick days. Are they childish? Should you just never be taking them? Riley, break it down.
Sure thing. So in a recent video, seemingly recorded from his house and not an office, the Daily Wire's Matt Walsh claimed that adults shouldn't be taking sick days at the office. Taking a sick day as an adult should be pretty embarrassing for you, he stated. They're for kids in school who are trying to stay home so they don't have to take a test that day.
You shouldn't be using sick days. Okay, I've used sick days maybe twice in 7 years. And in both of those cases, because I lost my voice and I couldn't speak, you can't blame me for that. It's impossible to do a podcast when you can't speak.
I guess so there we have it. Are sick days just a product of our infantilized, libbed out society? Are we just overly estrogenized over here, taking sick days when we have the flu or something? Maybe Matt has a point. Kevin, I'm going to start with you, my friend. Where are you from? Who are you calling in? Where are you calling in from? And what do you think about the question at hand?
Hey, I'm Kevin, originally from Texas, but calling in from New York City. I think, Matt Matt works in the media business. He's in the business of getting clicks. I think he sort of plays this character of a curmudgeon-y old guy, like a Red Foreman, That 70s Show type of guy with a flannel shirt and a bad attitude. So I think like he's sort of playing into that a little bit. I don't know if this is actually what he thinks about sick days. Look, I think we should be working hard. I think if you're healthy enough to go into work, you should. Do I think it's embarrassing to take a sick day? Not really. Just get your stuff done on time if you can. Don't leave work onto your teammates if you can avoid it. But I think he's probably leaning into a made for Twitter moment a little bit, which seems to have worked since we're here talking about it.
Oh yeah, I always click.
That's sort of my take.
Anything designed to click, I'm clicking. I'm clicking it multiple times. I'm clicking it right now.
Because he's got a movie coming out.
What was that?
He's drumming it up because he's got a movie coming out. Or 3 days ago, he had a movie come out. So.
Right, he's got to get us however he can.
Exactly.
Miles, where are you from, and what do you make of the sick days?
I'm from an hour outside of Nashville. It's called Clarksville, Tennessee. I guess the steel man, like nobody's ever going to be great if they're taking sick days. Like Bill Gates famously didn't didn't take a day off for like 10 years. And then what if Michael Jordan called in sick to the flu game? But Matt does kind of posit himself as some tough guy when he's an actor and an author who argues with old gender studies professors and writes children's books. So
that's
the toughest thing about him. Yeah, that's the toughest thing about him is that he doesn't call in sick to work.
But of course, I mean, it's like Riley said, but like, where is your work? I mean, where are you recording from, sir? It seems like your bedroom.
Yeah,
so what do you mean you're not calling in sick? I don't really understand it. I have some colleagues who will come in to the office sick and they'll be coughing, sneezing. Oh, sorry, I've got a little cold. I don't want to hear that. I'm thinking like, I'm mad. I hear that and I'm angry now. I'm leaving the room. I'm not going to be a jerk about it, but I am definitely like, why did you come? I need to go protect myself from this. And I think I guess I was thinking the whole time I wonder if COVID had not happened, if that would be a perspective we would still be having. I don't know that he would I think he would have said it. It's like something happened with COVID where we over-indexed on the ridiculous nature of it all. And we went from like, no, the masks don't work to like diseases don't exist. And that I'm not entirely on board with. I don't want to get sick. It takes you out for weeks. It's just, I don't know. It's just kind of stupid. But as you were saying, Kevin, it's like his character and like, it's like that entire archetype. I'm kind of over it. I'm exhausted by it. It's no longer the funny, wow, what did he just say that it was 5 years ago when he was owning the blue-haired whatever kindergarten teacher. The culture has evolved, and now it's like we're scraping the bottom of the barrel, it seems, and we're down to like sick days. Like, oh, are you a real man or do you take sick days? Jack, have you ever taken a sick day? Introduce yourself.
Yes, I have. So I'm Jack. I'm from Georgia, live in New York, currently calling in from LA. I think you raise a good point on the COVID thing. So a hypothetical question: who would you rather have as your boss, Matt Walsh, who is the sick day denier, or Taylor Lorenz, who is still living in 2020 COVID and 2024. It's like the new political spectrum thing. Like every day is a sick day, or sick days are for losers. Like where would you put yourself in that?
Right, the two genders.
Yeah.
There's really, I mean, what a world that we have descended to that we have to choose between one of these two. I don't know. I think if my choice were no sick days ever, or every day is a sick day, I think I would have to go no sick days.
Okay.
Just I think
so
society
you're more Walshian than
I think society would collapse. I think society would just end if it was if we all acted like, masked up. Is she still masked up though?
I think so.
I was wondering this the other day. At this point, if you're still masked up, I think I have nothing but respect. I think it's like the commitment to the bit is. It's like I've never really seen any kind of commitment like that before in my life, and go off. But no, I don't want to live in that world.
Well,
go ahead.
Another take is, like you said, committing to the bit. Matt Walsh has 6 kids. I looked him up on Wikipedia earlier to do my due diligence. So a conspiracy theory of mine is that he actually himself probably does believe in sick days, but he's gaslit his kids into thinking they shouldn't take sick days because he doesn't want his 6 if you have 6 kids, one of them will probably be sick every single day. So perhaps he's just been telling his kids like, no, you have to go to school, man up, so he doesn't have to deal with it. So him putting that on Twitter is just like, no, daddy actually thinks sick days are bad because it's just like trying to keep his own sick kids away from him. So there's a whole spin zone on that.
Mason was in my mentions and she was like, this guy has 6 kids and I love that for him, but he is absolutely the plague vector in the office. It's like they bring disease wherever they go. And if this is a man that doesn't believe in sort of staying home, but of course he does. This is the broader thing, right? It's like these characters that we're playing online are just, I don't know. They're increasingly a little buffoonish. Miles? You said he had a movie coming out. What is it again? I saw that there was one. I saw him doing the thing with the author of the White Fragility book, Robin DiAngelo. He got her to pay his assistant some money.
Yeah, he's doing the less funny version of Sacha Baron Cohen, like dressing up like a libbed up guy, pressing these liberal people, sort of like playing into their character. I was thinking it's interesting that his far right point of view is sort of circling back to like the anti-human vibe of the anti-left. It's like you got to go to work every day, you're a wage bot, no sick days, or you live in your pod and you eat bugs. So it's sort of horseshoeing over to the far right anti-human vibe.
Yeah,
humans get sick.
I agree. Because you see a lot of the on the anti-bug, on the bug versus anti-bug dimension. There's like the sun your balls, don't wear sunscreen, eat red meat, like swim naked kind of thing. And that to me is compelling. that I'm like, well, there's something charismatic about that from a health influencer.
Is Matt Walsh sunning his balls?
I don't think Matt's sunning his balls is my personal read of the situation. But I think that what he brings is it's a different kind of conservative, like all the sun your ball stuff is this new sort of Nietzschean right wing thing. It's like this throwback to like the ancient Greeks and the ancient Romans. There's like something sort of pagan about it. There's something sort of anti-Christian about it. And Matt Walsh is like, he's like what a conservative was when I was growing up. But he wears skinny jeans and
he's
and
a
was
2012 hipster.
And he was like early to sort of making fun of crazy leftists on thedailywire.com. And I find it, I'm not interested in going back. You know what I mean? I want something new. I want fresh material. This is why I'm pro Sun Your Balls. I'm not recommending it. And I have yet to try it myself. But I am curious about it. And I just think that's the future. I hope the right wing adheres to that path rather than wavering back to the sort of like sick days are for women type posting. It's just silly. Like nobody believes it. Nobody believes you. I do want to see the interview with Robin DiAngelo, however, because I hate her more. And I don't know, have you guys been watching the trailers at all or?
It's pretty funny. He basically, he dressed up as Matt, a DEI consultant, and goes into all of these sort of anti-racist workshops. Like I think you mentioned, he eventually got Robin DiAngelo to pay reparations to his assistant. She has now stated that that's not how reparations work, but she did make the payment. So I don't know. It's funny. I mean, I think the first one he did, What is a Woman, I think was the name of the first movie, sort of went into the whole gender ideology stuff. It'll be interesting to see him take sort of the craziness of the DEI stuff to the masses and see how they respond. I think like a lot of us who are very online and kind of have dove into the underpinnings of all of this stuff and know how crazy it is, I don't think most people really kind of know what's going on behind closed doors. So I do think he's maybe doing a valuable service to showing some sunlight on all of that craziness and see how the masses react.
I was was doing an interview the other day with a journalist who's working on a piece on Pirate Wires. It's a coin toss. He listens too. So hi. We're not sure yet how this piece is going to turn out, but I decided to take a risk. And he asked me a good question this last time, which was, how did I see Pirate Wires being impacted by the vibe shift in terms of things that we cover. And I don't feel like at all, because we didn't create an identity based on woke whack-a-mole. In fact, it's something that we've made fun of a lot here. But I do think that, and I mentioned the Daily Wire, I said I think that they're going to have a hard time with it, because a lot of what they've done over the last 5 years is just say what nobody else was willing to say on a very narrow social dimension. And now no one has a hard time saying stuff like that. And so that is why, what is going viral right now with him, it's an interview with a woman who was relevant 4 years ago in 2020 was the height of her relevance. And yeah, it's funny, and I still don't like her, and I love to see her get roasted like that. But like, why did I wasn't waiting for the latest Robin DiAngelo takedown. Like, I feel like she's been taken down culturally. She's not what she once. I mean, she's rich as hell. So, I mean, no one's really taking her down in the way that she deserves to be taken down for the grift. But it's like, that's not really that relevant anymore. She's not, we don't have legalized race riots at the moment. And we don't have her on TV defending them. So it just seems like I think they're trying to figure out what they are now in this world that is much more willing to criticize the craziest excesses of the far left.
I think so. His Twitter handle is still Matt Walsh blog. He was like one of the original kind of right-wing blogger types. I think in some ways he is still stuck in that like early 2000s world where like that plays. And I also like Ben Shapiro said our business model is Facebook ads. I think they're very much like boomer focused, and this still plays to boomers, honestly. They're like 5 years, maybe more behind us online young folks. So I think there is an audience for it, but yeah, I do think it's getting tired.
Facebook is how they built the Daily Wire. The whole story there is pretty interesting. And they were doing it. I mean, they started before everybody really. And Brandy, you would have more insight into this, but my read of it is that they were doing it at a time when Facebook traffic was free, and they got very big, very fast by putting money and thought into this huge opportunity that a lot of other people were slower to hit. Because it's an older crowd, they were not only were they early to this, they were uniquely well positioned to take advantage of, and not in an insidious way, just like in a business way, to take advantage of the opportunity in a way that like it was always going to be Vox was going to be a tougher sell on Facebook, really. I mean, among like my parents, like that was never going to happen. And so they blew up, but now Facebook traffic is not free, and boomers are getting older. And are even they all on Facebook still? Like, I mean, are people using? I went on Facebook the other day, and I did see some people were still using it, but I just hadn't been on Facebook in so long, and I don't even think like my mom's not on Facebook. She uses Instagram. She sends me videos about. My mom also watches. What's up, Mom? She loves plants, and she sends me videos about like being a plant person. She somehow discovered the plant person algorithmic, I don't know, trap. But she's not on Facebook, right? Posting the like my Native American spirit guide memes or whatever is happening over there. So yeah, what is the next step for the Daily Wire?
It is so washed up now. Like that really started hitting the zeitgeist in like 2015 when those Ben Shapiro compilations were popping off. It's so everybody thinks it's corny at this point, except for the old heads on Facebook who repost Jesus AI pictures. Like he's come back,
Well, and they had Candace too, who they clipped her wings for the pro Hamas stuff. And it's just been a rough road for the Daily Wire. All right, guys, last thoughts? Anything? Closing remarks?
Yeah, it's kind of like this whole thing. It's like the reverse CNN from like 2015 or whatever, right? Like back in the day, CNN's entire thing was, all right, Trump did this dumb shit. We're going to talk about it, whatever. We have to like talk down on him. And then he lost the last election, and all of a sudden their views tanked because their whole thing was just rage baiting everything they didn't like about him. And when he wasn't in the picture, then when he wasn't on Twitter, he wasn't even like posting that much. So then they didn't have any content. Daily Wire was trying to own the libs, and they did it. The libs are dead. Like you can say the word retarded again. Like there's been a whole vibe shift back to the right. It's huge. Yeah. And so when you can do that, you get stuck in this thing where you're having to start a war against sick days because there's nothing left.
I think he's right, actually.
Go off.
Shouldn't you be slightly embarrassed to take a sick day, like so that you don't take more sick days than you actually need to take? I'm embarrassed to take a sick day. I'm not sure that you should be like when you're super sick, obviously you should take a sick day, but you should think twice before you take a sick day. Like if you have a sore throat, it's a little bit sore, it's like kind of scratchy. Should you really take a sick day? It's like, you're probably okay, especially if you're working from home. Yeah. I think there's some truth to what Matt Walsh is saying. Matt Walsh.
I think there's some truth to the idea, as we were discussing earlier, there's some truth to the idea that the average American worker today is soft, and American in general is soft, and that's annoying and fun to make fun of. And maybe he was touching on that, but I mean, again, to go back to the original point, it's maybe just hard to hear that from someone who is that specific message of like, you should never be out. You should never be taking off, from someone who's recording from their house, which I mean, I'm doing myself, but I'm also pro sick. Take a sick day. Take it. It
is also annoying to hear the Amazon workers complaining about going back to work as well. So it's
that I have no tolerance for it.
Exactly.
I just have no tolerance for it. And to be clear about why I'm here because this is the best place I have to record the podcast for now. When I'm in New York, I have a studio now, and thank you, Matt. In SF, we're working on something at Founders Fund that I'll probably use myself. And then I guess in Miami, I mean, we're going to have to figure something out. I don't know what it is. That's all stuff for another day. Guys, last thoughts, anything you have to say at all to the Pirate Nation? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Nothing, it sounds like. It's been real. Thank you guys for watching. Next week begins the quarterfinals. Rate, respond, review, and I'm serious. I said at the top of the show, please fucking subscribe. If you're following the show and you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe. I don't understand why people don't subscribe. It does nothing. It doesn't hurt you. You don't have to pay for it. Like, it's totally free. Just give it to us. Thank you very much. Goodbye. Have a great weekend.